All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on April 27th at 6 p.m. Maybe have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Ray Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Joanne Steffen,
Present.
Commissioner Omar Kobian,
Present.
Chairperson Alvin Dejanay.
Here. Commissioner Baker will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And hand over heart and begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll now move to the approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion?
I'll approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Have a vote. All right, the motion carries. All right, before we hear public comments this evening, I ask everyone and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful towards each other, especially towards the individuals that are speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting and share his or her opinions or views concerning our city. But we can accomplish more as a city and as a private citizen by being civil and respectful toward another in this meeting. During the public comment section or period for each item, as well as during the public comment period for items not in the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to address the commission or on any matter under the public comment section of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearing must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, members of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person except for the applicant for entitlements. Excuse me. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on any particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or audience. Thank you very much for that. The next item is public comments, not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
No speakers.
All right. All right, so the next item is the approval of the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and non-controversial and may enact one motion unless a member of the commission requests that the item be removed for a separate action. Items withdrawn for report or discussion will be heard after the public hearing items. Question or comments from the public on the consent calendar matter are limited to 3 minutes per individual and must pertain to the subject under consideration. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
All right. At this time, do we have a motion and a second for the consent calendar?
Also move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Looks like the motion carries. All right. The next item on the agenda is approval of the non-public hearing items. At this time, we have no items. So we'll keep it moving right along to the next item on the agenda is the public hearing items. So item number 1, The applicant is requesting approval of a specific plan amendment and tentative parcel map for revitalization and the redevelopment of a portion of the existing Moreno Valley Mall. Do we have a staff report?
I'd like to, if you don't mind, Chair.
Sure.
I'd just like for the record to state that my employer did send in a letter for this project in regards, but not in any way, shape, or form will that letter influence my decisions today. I am here as a resident and a Moreno Valley Planning Commissioner.
Okay.
The presentation this evening will be made by Senior Planner Julia Dakota.
Good evening, Chair Dejanay and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Julia Dakota, a senior planner, and this evening before you is a specific plan amendment for the Moreno Valley Mall, redeveloping of that, and a tentative parcel map. The zoning in the Moreno Valley Mall area is center mixed use, which is a area zoning that allows for multiple type uses, which would include residential, retail, hotels, entertainment areas. All of those different uses are allowed within that use. The specific plan 200 currently allows for only the existing mall type uses, so we're introducing lots of new uses for that area with this specific plan amendment. The first item that you have on your is the tentative parcel map. The tentative parcel map will subdivide the existing 4 parcels, the section that's not in blue up there, into 22 different parcels with land uses consisting of commercial, residential, hotel, and office uses, common open spaces, and parking lots. The specific plan amendment would allow for the redevelopment of a portion of the existing planning area 2 of the current specific plan 200 into 2 planning areas. Planning area 2A will be the new revitalized area, and planning area 2B will remain within the existing development standards of the existing specific plan. That area is not owned by the same property owners, and it has the Macy's as well as the J.C. Penney's on the western portion of the site. The specific plan amendment is a modification that is approximately 59 acres. It'll provide about 2.8 million square feet with private internal driveways, parking facilities, public and private infrastructure. There'll be approximately 1,627 multifamily units at build-out, which is 4 residential buildings. In addition to that, there is to be multiple hotels, some office area, an entertainment area, and the specific plan amendment will drive the design criteria for all of those new uses within the area. So this is a conceptual site plan, and it does depict the different areas within the plan that you would expect to see the different types of uses. In the blue area, 17, 15, 12, those areas would be the residential portion of it, so you'll see that on the eastern portion of the site. And then within that green area, number 14, that's more of the entertainment area, so that will bring together the residential along with the commercial and retail uses of the mall area. With the improvements, there'll be improvements to the circulation plan to ensure that not only the residents that live there, but the residents from outside the area that come to the mall would have access to the area along with parking. And this provides a conceptual open space plan to show you that there are areas, gathering areas, event areas, There'll be a walking area connecting the food court area to the retail side of the, or portion of the site. The access and parking will be served by the existing loop area. Let me go back one slide for that, the circulation plan. There'll be specific areas where they'll be asked to do some street improvements and maybe some utility improvements, signals and such. The project had a original project. There was an environmental impact report processed for the Moreno Valley Town Gate specific plan, was certified in 1986. Currently, the project has been evaluated, and we have done a subsequent EIR to the original EIR. We sent that out for review in November of 2022, with the period ending in January of 2023. We received 11 public comments on that, and they have been addressed in the final EIR. With that, there were 3 areas of air quality and greenhouse, two areas, greenhouse gas and air quality. And we have prepared a statement and overriding consideration for this, as they're unavoidable, but the project on its own merits would be a benefit to the community. We received 3 different comment letters since the item was posted for hearing. One of them was from an attorney for, and you have those in your packets up there. We had one from Riverside County Flood Control. It's their standard letter just stating that they have to comply with those types of rules. We printed all those for you for your review. We also have some revised conditions of approval. As we were going through them, we have provided those to you. Just one clarification on page 3 of your document, where it has condition of approval 148, where it has the strikeout of Town Circle, Memorial Way, Heritage. Those will not be strikeout on the original condition when it's revised. With that, this concludes staff's report. The applicant will be here, as well as the environmental consultant, to answer any questions for you. And at this time, planning staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council adopt Resolution 2023-18 and 2023-16, certify that the City Council certify the subsequent environmental impact report, and recommend that 2023-16 approves the specific plan amendment, and 2023-17 approves the tentative parcel map. And with that, I'll conclude, and we're here for any questions that you might have.
I'm going to add one additional item before we completely hand it over to you, Chair. We also, prior to this meeting, there was a packet handed to you, which outlined various conditions of approval that have been recommended by city staff to amend, modify. This was through conversations with the applicant team, as well as other input that we received. Additionally, you have 3 public comment letters that are available to you this evening as well. One thing I do want to note, on condition number 148, there was an inadvertent strikeout in 148 in the memorandum that was shared with you. And that inadvertent strikeout is the naming of the streets: Town Circle and Campus Parkway, Memorial Way and Town Circle, Heritage Way in Town Circle, and Center Point Drive in Town Circle. We do have staff from Public Works here that can speak to that further, but we do apologize for that Scrivener's error when we were modifying this memorandum.
Thank you. At this time, are there any commissioner questions for staff?
I have a couple. Will the remaining parking area be repaved to match the new area once the project is complete? The area outside the scope. Do you staff know that?
So I can, ultimately, when it comes to the J.C. Penney's and the Macy's portions, those are privately held, so that will be ultimately up to those entities, because they own their own parcels, separate and independent from the rest of the project. That's the reason they're in that's the reason they're not actually part of this specific plan amendment, but have been moved into specific plan amendment B. In terms of the rehabilitation of any existing parking areas within the site, I will ultimately defer that to the applicant, but I would anticipate that the vast majority of the paving within that existing within the existing development will have to be repaved for a number of different reasons, including utility connections and those types of things, as part of their proposal to expand.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask, when I was at home, I was looking at all the renderings that were given, and are they gonna be kind of basically like that, or are they just gonna be, is this just something we're seeing right now? Because they were really beautiful, they look really nice, and they look very upscale, and I'm just hoping that they're gonna stick to that type of a plan. I know, we don't live in Orange County, we don't live in Huntington Beach, we don't live in Newport, but they looked very nice.
So the conceptual renderings that were provided are just that. They are conceptual renderings. However, they are designed to reflect the design guidelines that are expressed in the specific plan. So ultimately, it's those standards in the specific plan and the renderings that have been provided to us that will set the standard by which we measure the architecture of the development.
Because, like I said, the mall, it's in dire need of help.
I want to second on that. Now, as far as design and is each individual residential building going to be submitted to the planning commission on a later date? Or, I mean, because it's very conceptual, the whole packet is just a conceptual. We're not looking at, we don't know what it's going to look like, to be honest with you. Is there going to be a separate packet brought before the planning commission before we, or this is to approve CEQA, I mean, to adopt mitigation, but will there be further plans submitted to the planning commission?
So similar to other specific plans that we have in the city, ultimately the design guidelines and those things are the roadmap for which the city will ultimately approve the projects. But when a specific plan is traditionally adopted, the final action of the final design review ultimately is vested in the community development director. So this entitlement ultimately outlines how the vision for this development, but the final approvals, unless appealed, would be at the discretion of the community development director.
Will the community developer director please stand up? So we can identify him.
Okay. I mean,
I am only acting, ma'am.
I mean, we're talking about 1,600 units, multiple hotels, and it sounds like we're asking to approve on a full sweep, and I don't know. I mean, that's a big ask, and for conceptual. I mean, sure, we're all comfortable with that, but
Again, this is how the other specific plans within the city have all been adopted previously. This is very common for a specific plan, for the way in which a specific plan is adopted and ultimately developed out. And that is true of the corridor specific plan, which we've seen the construction of various buildings in that specific plan. That's at Heacock and Ironwood.
This is huge.
yeah,
It's also
This is
true.
huge.
It's also true of the World Logistics Center.
And
Wow.
the current specific
you
plan.
know how long that lasted.
The current specific plan has the same language in it. So the remaining part of it, the only time the planning commission would see an item or a project is depending on if a CUP is required. So it's not changing per se the language.
could. Are there any more commissioner questions for staff? All right, at this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Ilbach. I'm CEO of IGP Business Group. I acquired Moreno Valley Mall November of 2017. I had this vision of putting mixed-use destination city in Moreno Valley Mall to bring the mall back what it was probably 30 years ago. I'd like to thank the City of Moreno Valley, Sean and team. We have been through hundreds of meetings to come this point. Thank you, Sean and team, and I guess Mark will explain what we are trying to do.
Good evening. I'm Mark Levine, Managing Director of Nelson Worldwide. And we recognize that the success of a project of this magnitude does take everybody involved. The city with guidance and trust, the community with support, and ultimately enjoyment and use of the final property, and certainly ownership, commitment, and vision. It's easy to see where in today's world malls are failing very easily. Just up the freeway, right, was just announced. The city is demolishing the mall, the Carousel Mall, right, because it was abandoned and blighted. So the commitment and vision of ownership of Matt is really paramount. I'd like to make a distinction of ownership on this mall from really a lot of the clients that we have across the country and all of the work that we do on mall development. With this unique situation, Matt doesn't have a huge portfolio of hundreds of malls where he can kind of pick and choose. He lives in the area. His office is at the mall, so he really does live and breathe it. He and I started discussions on this vision in 2019. COVID happened. A lot of malls shuttled at that time. He kept it open. And so I think that the track record is there of not just words, but action of commitment. Even more compelling, I think, than the commitment to the community is the vision, which you stated is broad in multiple uses and the vision of this property. I'll try and touch on just a few aspects of the design, the sustainability and walkability of the master plan. Again, this mall is 30 years plus old. It was designed at the height of the suburban mall. It's got a ring road and acres and acres of paved parking, right? We don't live that way anymore. Technology is completely different. Our expectations and behaviors are completely different. The question was posed about what are we doing, right, with some of the parking fields. One of the sustainability factors is that we are not demolishing any significant part of the mall. Again, on a lot of the, really pretty much wholesale on the projects we work on with other clients, they scrape and rebuild, right? So when you talk about sustainability, we're reusing and revitalizing the mall as it exists right now. That's also a testament to the community and the support given to the retailers and tenants at the mall currently. So we are breaking, well, actually to the parking, right? All of the surface parking that remains in the scope that we're developing will be resurfaced, replanned actually, and re-landscaped. So a lot of, actually all of the new construction is taking place in the parking fields, right? So the density and the walkability comes from repurposing all of that heat island asphalt that exists right now. The districting, I know I've only got a few minutes, so I'm trying to get through this pretty quickly. But the districting, I think, works in paramount with, in conjunction with the specific plan amendment, and that's how that is written with guidelines and very strict design criteria. And anything outside that would probably come back to reviews and other processes. The districting office and hotel is the yellow area, which is on the highest elevation of the site and adjacent to the freeway. That provides best visibility and actually a natural buffer to the lower field of residential that's in blue. The residential is also situated to the, I kind of want to say southwest, that is adjacent to existing apartment neighborhoods. So we've broken that ring road that's really been a buffer, a barrier around this 30-year mall with two primary intersections. One at Center Point that provides an entry boulevard and brings, at the upper level, brings guests and customers into the new plaza, the newly renovated proposed entry to the mall and the hotel district. The the second intersection is at Heritage that again creates walkability and connection between existing apartment neighborhoods and newly proposed apartment neighborhoods. This all culminates in really the center nucleus of this master plan, which is the Plaza Park in green in the middle, and that intersection that we break open between upper parking fields and lower parking with a stepped, landscaped stair element, and it really opens the space between the buildings for walkability, visibility, the interaction between residents, guests, retailers, shoppers, food and beverage, right? So this becomes the growing identity of this master plan. This again gives you another vantage point of, standing on an apartment balcony over and above the park area. This is some, again, philosophical and design kind of identity and branding that's developed from the SPA. So all of that is written criteria and guidelines that is unchanging, that is bound with this master plan. This is just a little bit of financial underpinnings. It was a third-party review and study, and two high points are that the independent study found that from our proposal, it would increase tax revenue by $6.44 million, and that at the end of complete build-out, there would be a need for up to 1,600 permanent jobs. So this is to say that it's not a redevelopment of an anchor store. It's not a kind of a facelift. This is a complete transformational vision for this property that, as you say, right, is really in need, right, and the timing is right for this. So as a city center and city place, the name of this it now is what's being proposed as Metropole, which is very simply, it means city center. This is a snapshot of a website that is not gone live but is in the works, and will include feedback potential from the community. So the idea of the city center and this vision and the identity of this master plan is in process to grow organically with the community. I would say that tonight's review and approval is certainly a serious step, but not the end of the goals, right? The end goal is to be enjoying, breakfast at a farmer's market, to be sharing drinks on the rooftop bar, right, at the hotel, to be sitting on one of those balconies and envisioning and enjoying the hustle and bustle around that park. So that really is right, the end goal and the commitment, and it'll take everybody to get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a few. We mentioned 1,600 units and a couple hotels. Now, within those housing units, will there be any lower income qualified units for maybe a struggling mother, a young man or young woman, a college student? Would they be able to qualify for some of these units? Because I mean, I know with the rent and the way things are now, inflation, has there been a discussion about allocating a percentage of units for those individuals that qualify?
In a word, absolutely. Yeah, across every spectrum of what you just described and product type. I know the renderings probably, right, they show the grandest, highest density, but the reality is, right, as you mentioned, with the market, you can't just go out and build 1,600 units on a wrapped podium, right? That just doesn't pencil, as everybody says. But the vision is to pursue inclusion, right, of moderate and low income and a diversity of opportunity in the housing.
Commissioner Cobian, in the preparation actually and the finalization of our housing element, we actually did receive a letter from the developer for this project in support of that as well. And that was actually part of the documentation that we ultimately provided to HCD as part of our housing element, was a commitment to to look at opportunities to pursue lower income housing within this development.
Great. Thank you. I have a couple more. You mentioned 1,600 permanent jobs. As far as the construction of all these units and this entire rendering, I mean, I'm thinking just from my experience, 3 years minimum, 2-3 years, 1,000 to 2,000 workers possibly. Is there any discussion? Is there any plan within your scope of construction to have a local hire requirement or a way to make sure you're bringing in young students into the trades? You got a lot of students who are going to be graduating next month and have nowhere to go. And have you had any discussions about an apprenticeship possibly, or making sure that you're giving opportunities for young men and women to start a career in the trades?
I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Steve Hanna, owner's rep for construction and development. And the discussions we've had is that we'd like to hire as many local trades as possible. We would absolutely require them to be responsible contractors and a reputable reputation and quality contractors. So our idea is to shotgun the market and evaluate the contractors based on them being responsible in paying a living wage.
Paying a living wage, yeah. Because unfortunately, some of these type of projects don't always play by the same rules.
Yeah, it's important to us.
Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question. I know it has nothing probably to do with the project in the big aspect, but I know that Harris Gottschalk's has been in disrepair for, oh gosh, is there something planned for that?
Well, today it's almost impossible to find anybody similar to Sears or Gottschalk to
Right.
occupy 150,000 square foot of big box. So that particular building has been empty for last 15 years without like zero interest. So that's why this development we're trying to put together is so important, because when a big box move out of the mall, really it can kill the mall overnight. So even though right now mall is like over 90% occupied inline, I have Sears empty and I have Goshawk empty. So I have total 325,000 square foot of empty boxes, and I know that will be never occupied if something like this doesn't come in play, because it just this has designed 30 years ago, and today it's just practically impossible.
Yeah, well, maybe once the whole thing is built out, maybe some sort of entertainment venue or something.
Entertainment and grocery store, because really my vision is to create carless community. Like you live there, you don't need a car. You have your grocery, you have 130 other stores, movie theater, entertainment. Mall has everything. And along with this, I want to bring community to come with these all new green areas to enjoy, Christmas time or Cinco de Mayo or Easter, any gathering for, Moreno Valley, and actually making that place a destination.
Right.
Bringing surrounding cities.
Yeah, I was
into
just
Moreno.
curious because I've lived here a long time, and I know it's been empty for a long
Yeah,
long
this
time.
city needs it, and I need it. Mall needs it. So without this being in play, that location will be just keep getting empty. And if Macy's and JCPenney leaves, I will have like 700,000 square foot, even 800,000.
Macy's can't go. I shop there all the time.
No, I mean if you don't this, this is what happening. Like
I
I
know.
said,
I'm being
overnight they can
facetious.
just shut down and go bankrupt.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's in dire need. It absolutely is. I mean, I wish this would have happened 15 years ago.
So this project is
yeah.
not only because a project is really helping the mall to come back and bring the community there. So
Right. Well,
that's-
yeah, we need it. There's no ands, buts, or if about that.
Thank you.
The parking structure next to the apartment complex, it looks like a multi-level parking structure. Is that for the residents, or is that also for the mall people?
Yeah, the any and all apartment buildings on that master plan would be self-parked and would be distinct and separate from retail and shopping and hotel guests. So even if they would be connected, or even if they would be part of the same structure, circulation-wise, they would be separate.
I see.
I don't believe that has ever been utilized, has it? The bottom of that parking structure?
It never has.
Never.
Never.
Yeah, I didn't think it had. I always thought, why did they put so much parking? I couldn't understand it myself.
Yeah, there was a plan to put one more big box, and that never have built.
Oh.
Therefore, that never been used.
Right.
Is this the only rendition, or do you have maybe, because I understand things don't go as planned. Are there other, like a flow chart to say, right, I see you nodding your head there. For instance, you look at the major parking area. It covers a large footprint. There's a lot of space there. And it seems like parking structures, multi-level parking structures, will lower that footprint in order to perhaps build more walking area, gathering centers, stuff like that. So I'm wondering, is that the only rendering, or do you have other?
No, I would tell you, right? I mean, we've been what, 5 years at this.
Yeah, we're working on this for 5 years.
So there are endless amounts of versions and configurations that make that function. And again, that is the basis of the specific plan amendment and the criteria and the ratios, right, that are outlined in that would govern density and appropriate parking. That it is the intent, right, especially in the heat and sun, everybody knows, right, the Moreno Valley, that the majority of the parking would go to structured covered parking, so that, right, that other opposite end, where even if you're parking underneath, you still have to come up, you go outside, and it's the worst unconnected parking lot I've ever seen. Any structured parking would be connected, covered, part of the extension of that internal master plan that connects shoppers to the mall, lighted, much safer, cooler. So that is all part of the criteria in the SPA.
Also, when Sears was there, and I want to say that the south entrance to the mall, you know, that sweeping curve in order to enter the parking lot. I know anybody that's ever driven into that, cars pull out to see. They can't see. Is there any, and that is very dangerous. Is there any plan to change that? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The south end of the mall,
Right.
there's a nice long curve that comes along. As they were coming out to the parking lot, you can't see through that curve, so they would actually have to pull
On
out.
it's the upper parking field of Sears?
Upper or lower?
Yeah, it was not the lower part of Sears, the upper part.
The upper part, right?
Right.
So next to the
Where you
food
would
court
come in with the
entry.
food court and that sort of
Right,
thing.
right. So that is one of the parking fields that remains in the master plan, and that is replanned and landscaped with a buffer. Like right now along that ring road, you've got all of the drive lanes that just come out, right?
Mm-hmm.
The replanning of that in the site plan has got a landscape buffer that encloses that entire parking field. So you've got really controlled
Right.
entries and exits. So it would be much safer, and certainly visibility would be paramount.
I see you know what I'm talking about.
I have another quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry. If you were to get approved today, let's say City Council approves you next month, or do you have? I mean, are your stakeholders in play? Is it ready to go? Because I know we've approved projects in the past that will just sit empty for years, and it's a waste of our time. I feel like it's a waste of our time. So, how far along would it be before you had boots on the ground from City Council approval?
I mean, I'm working with developers and builders as of today, but everybody's waiting for proofs and entitlement package being passed through all these challenges. Because of the mall condition, I have to start ASAP. I mean, I'm in rush to start, not just because I want to build building there, because I just really think about mall right now more than I'm thinking about the apartments. Just because of that reason, as soon as I can just build, I will start building it.
So, I mean, if you know you got City Council approval and you got your entitlements, and I'm sure the City of Moreno Valley is going to do whatever they can to get you what you need. What are you talking about? 6 months, a year?
Probably 6 months. I have a representative from Hyatt coming from San Francisco to just explain why Hyatt will be a good choice for that project. So we will start probably building Hyatt as soon as 6 months from now. If
And you plan to build from the Hyatt out, because the Hyatt's right up against the mall, right? From what I've seen,
right
and then the
facing the
residential.
freeway, yes.
It's on the upper field.
It's on the
field.
upper field.
Upper field.
Upper field, yes.
Okay, yeah.
So that hotel as an anchor to the new entry boulevard, the intersection.
Yeah, 'cause
really,
you're gonna build out.
that really becomes
block
the starting point for everything.
Yeah,
supposed to be
meantime, he's supposed to be here, but
okay.
he's coming all the way from San Francisco. He's 15 minutes behind, I guess.
Okay, that's-
20 minutes right now. But we want to start ASAP, really.
Okay, thank you.
How long will the whole, it's very ambitious, like I said, I mean, it's going to take a long time, so am I going to still be alive?
I don't know. I hope I'm still alive.
No, for sure you will be enjoying your Christmas hopefully soon in that Hyatt, or at least something will happen. Next 2 years, I bet it will start. You will see a lot of differences, changes. There are a lot of challenges out there, but we definitely want to start.
Oh, I know.
ASAP.
I've been here 39 years. I've seen it all. So you're not, but I'm just saying, I was promised a mall when I bought my home right away, and it took something like 7 to 9 years for that mall to even be built. It did. It was crazy. So that was a selling feature. You buy a house, you're going to have a beautiful mall, and it took forever. And then it was a disappointment, actually. So, this is why we're asking all these questions, because we've seen a lot and we've been promised a lot, and then it's just doesn't come to fruition.
To keep retail alive and to keep mall alive, I really have to start something ASAP. It's just because sake of mall, really. Just, yes.
Are there any more commissioner questions for staff? Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. All right, at this time, we will open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the public hearing item. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have 10 speakers. The first is Shabir Ramjan, followed by Rachel Landry.
Hi, my name is Shabir. Good evening, everybody. I'm here in the Moreno Valley Mall. It's the first store we opened up when I came into this country. We started our business from there. I'm a shoe man. I started with my eldest son. I set him up there, and all my family went through that. So I'm in the mall for like 22 years. We just come out of COVID-19. COVID-19 is a game changer for the whole world, for everybody, including animals. Okay, things are different. We have to reinvent ourselves. If the mall stays like this, it's over. A lot of malls have already shut down. We're lucky in this part of the world, it's not so bad. But in other places are worse. These are humongous places. Something has to be done. If this is not approved, find something better. To me, this is the best. But that's me. You all know probably better. There has to be something done, and not thinking about it has to be ASP. Otherwise, this is history. That mall is going to collapse. So all this project, the development that's going to go out, it's going to be a boost. It's the change. Need to do it. It's not about waiting and thinking about it. If somebody says if there's something better, let's hear it. To my mind, I can't see anything better than this. This is going to be a game changer. This is going to be really a change to this area. It's going to benefit the residents of Moreno Valley enormously. It'll bring people out here. It'll boost the mall. It's not about an apartment. It's more than that, It's the change. And everybody has to do it. This is COVID-19. We have to reinvent ourselves. If you did anything before COVID-19, whether you're working, taking kids to school or whatever, doing the same thing, it's going to affect you. You have to change. It's a new world. I can go on forever here. And they warned me that don't be more than 3 minutes. I hope I'm not more than 3 minutes.
Thank you, Shabir.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rachel Landry, followed by Brandon Karn.
Hello. I wrote my notes right here, so I'm just going to try to read it out. But my name is Rachel Landry. I'm the owner of Street Beat Ave Records. It's a music and clothing store, and I'm located inside the Moreno Valley Mall. And I've been in business for 5.5 years. My fiance, Mike, and I, we like to provide the music and family fun-oriented events for the Moreno Valley Mall. We do this to bring in more people to the mall. The mall has been very slow, so we have been trying to think of things to bring people inside. And since we have the record store and we do DJing music events, we wanted to bring something else to the mall, fun, family-oriented events. We also just want to say that we believe that the Moreno Valley Mall needs to be and renovated, because this will bring in more people from all different cities and states as well. And this new look of the renovations of the mall will create more businesses for the stores in the mall and will bring in more jobs and revenue for the city of Moreno Valley and the surrounding community. So we're all about the community and to bring in all the people into the mall with that community. I do want to say that there's some people that couldn't speak, but I'm speaking for them, and that is Toys for You, Tally's Table, Cellular Outlet, Fenny's Enterprise, Bay Jewelers, and Beauty Bar and Wigs, and they're all located inside the Moreno Valley Mall. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brandon Karn, followed by Tony Hernandez.
Do you guys have the clock up? Thank you. All right, thank you. I'm very excited to see this project coming forward after so many years that site and that property has been underutilized. When the mall was transitioned from Riverside International Raceway, we lost actually a world icon because the racetrack was globally known and you had races and events from all over the planet. Literally, NASCAR, the Indy 500 took place there. We would like to be able to see something of that magnitude return again, and this has probably been one of the best opportunities in decades for Moreno Valley to bring some sort of recreational event, economic boon back to the western end of Moreno Valley. This mall, and in addition to like Canyon Springs Medical Campus expanding, will be a great asset, not only a job creator, but it will be a community uniter. I can see a lot of redevelopment, small businesses redeveloping around the development of this mall as it is done. And some of the things that I have been part of recently, especially in the last few months, in the city of Moreno Valley with the new ordinance and discussion with the Arts Commission is looking to bring private art movement to Moreno Valley. We are looking to empower Moreno Valley creatives, muralists, sculptors, other things of that magnitude. We now have, as of last month, a private art walk in Moreno Valley, which will be held monthly. The next one will be June 10th. It has a new name now. Genevieve can elaborate on the name, but we are looking not only for places to do that, but we're looking for sites for private mural and projects to be done in Moreno Valley. I have been in many malls all over Southern California, Burbank. Most recently, I went to the Westfield Shopping Center in Palm Desert. That shopping center is filled with privately funded murals all over the site. The parking garage is a 3-story structure, and I was very surprised when I went to Palm Desert that they had even graffiti-style murals in that. So it works, the street art culture and all kinds of private vendors work very, very well together, very successfully. We're looking to see, as part of this plan, maybe that the mall developer can utilize not only projects of that kind, but Moreno Valley creatives, because we have those creatives. If any of you have not been to Moreno Valley College lately, you need to go see the new mural established on the Humanities Building. I helped paint some of it. The artist is Rosie Cortez. She was the main director behind it. She's going to have a dedication ceremony for it in about 3 weeks. We have the talent. We have people interested in donating their time as well as being employed for these types of projects or contracts. Moreno Valley has a massive opportunity with the development of this facility to bring events, people, creatives, and individuals together to revitalize what many of us have argued is a very blighted part of the community for many decades, unfortunately. And we can create events, and I really think that that's a major opportunity at this time. We have businesses already interested in private murals in the vicinity. I can't talk about them more because it's still in negotiation. It's not finalized. We have funding. It's already underway. You'll see more progress this summer about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tony Hernandez, followed by Tahir Chandri.
Yeah, my name is Tony Hernandez. I'm the Vice President of Moreno Valley Mall. It's an honor to be part of the mall. And basically, I want to start with, we understand that we're not Orange County, we're not Huntington Beach, but, it's time that Moreno Valley puts their name in the map. I mean, in a big community, this is going to be a great opportunity for everybody to really, really make this city what it should be. You see, this is really, really important. We cannot be intimidated by what's been happening in the past or with other cities. We're Moreno Valley. I think we have a lot of potential. And this redevelopment is going to benefit the city in a great and big way. And I really, really honestly believe that we have the ability to make this city to go above the next step that we really, really need. And this redevelopment is going to change things and make our city a lot better for other cities to, to see what we're doing, what we're accomplishing. We cannot be, like I said, we cannot be intimidated. We need to move forward, and this is going to be a great, great opportunity for our city to really, really move forward. And always remember, dreams do come true, and I firmly believe in that. And I firmly believe in this great city, and that we're going to be greater, greater, and greater. Once this is completed, believe me, we're going to be an envy of other cities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tahir, followed by Genevieve.
Oh, hello. Hello, planning commissioners and city staff. My name is Tahir. I'm a resident here in Moreno Valley, California, and I'm very excited for the Moreno Valley redevelopment. And I hope you guys support it as well, because the mall is known as like a rundown mall. When I mentioned it to my friends from out not from the city, so like once it's redeveloped, many people pass by it. They'll be curious when it's getting developed. So when it is developed, they'll start coming in. And when it is remodeled, more stores, more name brand stores will be attracted to it. So more foot traffic, and hopefully the Gottschalk building will be filled by then. And then I remember this was posted on Instagram like a year ago, and so many citizens of Moreno Valley were very excited about this plan. So I hope you guys support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Genevieve, followed by Tom Gerely, Sr.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Genevieve Alaman. I am thrilled to be here today to talk about the exciting renovation of our beloved mall. As we all know, this mall has been an important part of our community for many years. It's a place where families come to shop, dine, and spend time with each other. And now with the renovation underway, we have an opportunity to make it even more of a special place. As we work to revamp the mall, I want to encourage everyone to consider the importance of art in our community. Art has the power to inspire, uplift, and bring people together. And that's why I believe it's essential that we bring art into our mall. Art can take many forms. I would love to see beautiful murals on the walls. It could be an interactive exhibit that engages visitors, or an art installation that changes with the seasons. Whatever form it takes, art can add so much to our mall. It can create a sense of wonder and delight, inspire creativity and imagination, and foster a sense of community and belonging. So I want to encourage everyone involved in the renovation process to consider the role that art can play in our mall. Let's think creatively about how we can incorporate art into the design and create a space that is not functional but beautiful and inspiring. Make a local art exhibit or a museum for our city. I can easily see that as a place where people will go. I have had the privilege of meeting many community creatives these past few months. Many of them, I consider them my friends that long for a place to create. Let's use them and work together in a beautiful partnership. And to the artists in our community, I want to extend an invitation. We need your help to bring art to our mall. Whether you're a painter, sculptor, or installation artist, the city needs to hear from you. A squeaky wheel gets oil. Let's work together to make our mall a truly special place. In conclusion, I'm excited about the future of our mall. With this renovation, we have a chance to create a space that not only serves our community, but also inspires and uplifts it. Thanks. Let's make art a central part of that vision. Thank you so much, and excited to see this come together.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Tom Jarrell Sr., followed by Adam Frankel.
Tom Jarrell Sr., speaking on behalf of myself and in some ways for our little Sundance Center where I spent a bit of time. Chair Dijonay, commissioners, members of the staff, and the public, you're both here in the chamber and watching at home. I can tell you in 6 words why this needs to be approved. It's needed, it's needed, it's needed. Being one of the elders around, and I think I'll date Joanne, you're watching and waiting for the mall, going way back. It was one of the first things that was discussed before I even moved here in '79 when I first started visiting. We were talking about the mall that was going to come. But long story short, I saw this thing all the way through what were called the mall wars between Riverside and us, back and forth, and it was quite a saga that unto itself. But I do know this: one of the things that I heard from actual city staff, and as well as a developer and engineers, and my background is building development, and so I know a little bit about the planning process. And long story short, this mall was grossly overparked initially, and that's led to a lot of deterioration. I've been out here since, like I said, since the mall was built, and I have never seen that parking lot full. I've seen it get, a little busy, but never full or spillover in all the years I've been here. So, this is a great opportunity. I have heard only good things about the developer and his efforts. Something that really impressed me is a nice cross-section of people, been there a long time, and these young people here tonight, people of different political spectrums. So I really like that. That's a beautiful thing. And I will close on, we got a really vibrant and wonderful arts community. The young lady that spoke before me, Genevieve, is just a real firebrand. I went to one of her events last week, I think it was, and just incredible. It was a lot of fun and a lot of good energy and a lot of happy people there. So these are the future. So this is what we're doing this for, the young people that are going to build the second phase of this community. So I pray you find it in your heart to support the project, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak to it.
Thank you, Tom.
Our next speaker is Adam Frankel, followed by Michael Sotomayor.
Good evening. My name is Adam Frankel. I'm an attorney with the environmental law firm Lozo Jury. I'm here on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility. After reviewing the subsequent EIR or SEIR, SAFER concludes that it fails as an informational document and fails to implement all feasible mitigation measures to reduce the project's significant adverse environmental impacts. SAFER respectfully requests that you deny approval of the EIR and direct the city's planning department to address these shortcomings in a revised EIR. First, Baseline Environmental Consulting reviewed the project's significant and unavoidable air quality and greenhouse gas impacts. Regarding air quality, Baseline found that the SEIR failed to adequately address the potential health impacts related to the project's diesel particulate matter, or DPM, emissions. DPM is listed by the state of California as a known human carcinogen and can cause serious health effects resulting from even limited amounts of exposure. However, the SEIR fails to provide a health risk assessment, or HRA, to evaluate the health impact of the project's emissions. CEQA specifically requires projects to make a reasonable effort to evaluate these impacts, but the SEIR has failed to do so. Next, regarding greenhouse gas, or GHG, emissions, Baseline found that the SEIR failed to adequately evaluate or mitigate this significant impact. The project relied upon an unsubstantiated significance threshold, which has never been adopted, to determine the significance of its GHG emissions. Meanwhile, the project failed to evaluate consistency with the California Air Resources Board 2022 Scoping Plan for carbon neutrality. Importantly, the 2022 Scoping Plan specifically calls for projects to implement a broad suite of electrification measures to reduce GHG emissions. The SEIR should be revised to include a requirement that the project replace natural gas with electric power and provide broader installation of on-site solar panels to further reduce the GHG impact. Finally, SAFER's indoor air quality expert found an excess cancer risk resulting from the use of formaldehyde in indoor building materials throughout the project. Without mitigation, off-gassing of formaldehyde will result in an excess cancer risk to future project residents of 120 per million and to future project employees of 17.7 per million. Each of these risk levels are greater than the South Coast Air District's significance threshold. Therefore, the SEIR must be revised to analyze, disclose, and further mitigate the significant impacts which SAFER's independent experts have identified and described with substantial evidence. We urge you to deny approval of the SEIR and to direct staff to undertake the necessary efforts to prepare and recirculate a revised SEIR. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Sotomayor, followed by Sandy Ramirez.
Good evening, Chairman, Planning Commissioners, and everybody present. My name is Mike Sotomayor. I am a resident of Moreno Valley. I'm also a member of Southwest Mountain States Regional Council of Carpenters, who represent many members like myself in this community. I believe that many of the members that reside here will be impacted by environmental impacts of this general plan updates. The city should require developments to be built by contractors that will hire locally, pay prevailing wages, and utilize apprentices from a state-certified apprenticeship training program such as ours. Workforce requirements reduce construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting the local economy and workforce development. The South Coast Air Quality Management District recently found that local hire requirements can result in air pollutant reductions. Recently, the state of California reiterated its commitment towards encouraging workforce development and housing affordability through the Affordable Housing and High Road Jobs Act of 2022, otherwise known as Assembly Bill Number 2011, which requires projects to pay workers a prevailing wage and hire state-certified apprenticeship programs for projects meeting certain sightings, affordability, and development standards. For these reasons I've been a resident since 2013. I live in Ward 2. For these reasons that I stated, that I've mentioned here, prevailing wages, livable wages, is why I was able to afford my home. I bought my home back in 2013, and been able to survive, live, not have to have a bunch of people living in my home with me, but just me and my wife alone. So things like this are very crucial to a development of, I think, a city, a place. So I hope, with this being said, you guys take into consideration what I brought forth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sandy Ramirez, followed by Marcus Van Halle.
Good evening. I'm Sandy Ramirez. I am the chair of the Moreno Valley Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a business owner for 22 years here in the city of Moreno Valley. I used to be at Town Gate. Now I'm over off of Ellsworth, but I see that this is very important to bring to Moreno Valley, to bring more business, to increase the beautification of Moreno Valley. It'll bring more to, when you come on the freeway, you're going to see this beautiful mall and everything, and it's going to bring more people to Moreno Valley to take care of here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marcus Van Halle, followed by Nirav Shah.
Evening, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Marcus Van Halle, and I'm a 30-year resident of Moreno Valley, looking forward to all the great changes that have been proposed for the Moreno Valley Mall. I commend the developers for their sparkling presentation, their vision for the future. I need a point of clarification, however, and I'm sure it has occurred to you. We're not talking about a Moreno Valley Mall of 1993. We're talking about something that will exist into the far future without internal combustion engine automobiles. We've had so much talking about parking. What are we parking? Are we talking about vehicles of the future? I hope so. Let's keep that in mind. That's one of the things that's going to attract people to this mall. They know their new electric vehicles will have a place. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Nirav Shah.
Good evening. City of Moreno Valley. My name is Nirav Shah. I'm Vice President of Development for Hyatt Hotels, and I'm very grateful to be present here today in your company. I represent development and growth for Hyatt Hotels on the West Coast and have been working very closely with Moreno Valley Mall in concepting and development of this hotel. I'm here to speak on behalf of the project and add a little bit of my own personal perspective. I've been with Hyatt for a dozen years. Hyatt Hotels started not too far from here at LAX Airport. That was the first Hyatt hotel ever conceived. And since that day, we've grown globally around the world. I'm sure many people are aware of Hyatt Hotels in this room. We've had a very different path than the rest of the hotel chains out there. We've had many calls previously from various development groups about doing something in Moreno Valley, and our path has been a little bit different than sort of all the other chains that I greatly love and respect as well. And that is that we are there to provide upscale accommodations for the upscale traveler, and we don't want a box that's just stamped out there. Since my interaction with the Moreno Valley Mall owners and developers, that's the one thing that's always stood out, is that they want to build something that stands out, that is a place of pride for Moreno Valley, and the hotel is kind of the flagship for this community. For visitors to this community, for many of the transient workers that are coming to this community, have a place that really says Moreno Valley has arrived. And that's really what we were looking for. Further, as we went further into this conversation with Mr. Ilbach, he shared his personal vision about, as we got into the nitty-gritty of the design and kind of what we want to develop over here. And the one thing that he's been very consistent in saying, I want to give a place that people are very proud of in this community. And that really resonates with Hyatt's core values, which is to care for people so that they can be their best. That's always been our motto. We say no more than we say yes, because it's not just, yes, we want to grow. We're a for-profit organization, but we're not out there to just put pins on a map. We're out there to really grow in meaningful ways where we can be parts of the community. Our design is not a prototypical design. What we're developing here with Mr. Elbach and the Moreno Valley Mall team is something that's unique and not really out there. The brands that we're presenting will be Hyatt Place and Hyatt House, a brand that's consistent for transient travelers, a brand that provides accommodations for extended stay travelers that are coming here for a period of time. But the design ethos is something that does not exist anywhere else in the country. And so that's been our guiding principle, and we're very, very grateful to be a part of that and to be a part of this community.
Thank you. Thank you. At this time, would the applicant like to provide any additional information?
Chair, if I could jump in just on a couple of items real quick before the applicant does their follow-up. I do want to note a couple of things that were brought up by speakers. And I might be taking the applicant's thunder, I hope not. But in terms of the design guidelines that are identified for the proposed project, on pages 424 and page 425, specifically one of the design guidelines, Design Guideline 202, specifically identifies that there is a promotion of public art by local artists as part of this overall development, and it encourages the incorporation of local public art within the mall. But overall, those two pages really do focus specifically on public art and its inclusion into this development. The other thing I did also want to note was there was a comment made referencing Assembly Bill 2011. The City of Moreno Valley is in full support of the implementation and use of Assembly Bill 2011. And unfortunately, with this project, given its proximity to State Route 60, it could not be utilized for the purpose of development of this site. So that was one unfortunate thing. But in a lot of other areas within the City of Moreno Valley, when that law does become effective, and actually it's going to be part of a future item before this commission, that will be something that we will be continuing to promote, both through our own municipal code and also currently because it has been written into state law.
Thank you.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. My name is Mitch Menzer with the law firm of Cox, Castle, and Nicholson, representing the applicant. I have first a small correction to the April 27th memo regarding conditions of approval, and then I want to respond to some of the comments regarding the EIR. We believe that there's a small typo on page 3 at the top where it says westbound. Our traffic consultant has looked at this and believes that the language shared through that's been struck out there should be restored in order to actually fit the intersection configuration there.
Staff agrees with that modification.
Thank you. I want to respond to the letter that Drury Lozeau submitted and also the comments of Mr. Frankel regarding the EIR. And I want to start by explaining how extensive and exhaustive this EIR is. I don't know if you looked at it, but it would be about 4,000 pages. It was performed by Kimley Horn, which is one of the finest EIR consulting firms around. They've done hundreds and hundreds of EIRs. They have experts in air quality, greenhouse gas, energy, noise, transportation, and they've done an extremely thorough and excellent job on this EIR. You can be confident that you can properly recommend approval, certification of this EIR. The comments of Mr. Frankel and the letter that he submitted are incorrect on a number of points, and I just want to touch on them quickly. He stated that there should be a health risk assessment performed with respect to construction. That's not required by CEQA. In fact, the South Coast Air Quality Management District, which sets out standards for this type of study, does not require or recommend that type of health risk assessment. The EIR does contain a health risk assessment, which found that there were no inordinate risks. The guidance that's referred to in the letter, the OEAH manuals, in fact, do not require this type of health risk assessment. And in fact, neither the agency nor any other agency has specific thresholds or methodology for that type of test. So it's not necessary to delay this further in order to conduct a health risk assessment. Mr. Frankel and the Lozeau letter on behalf of SAFER also stated that the EIR should require the project to mitigate greenhouse gases and energy impacts so that the project would be carbon neutral, which is not a reasonable or feasible goal at this time. The EIR did analyze GHG emissions under the relevant standards that are set forth by the South Coast Air Quality Management District, and it proposes ambitious mitigation measures, including a requirement to exceed the Title 24 energy efficiency standards by 20%, and to include EV charging stations for electric vehicles that go beyond what's otherwise required. The comment was made that this project didn't analyze consistency with the 2022 scoping plan for greenhouse gases. And in fact, the 2022 scoping plan wasn't released until December, long after the draft environmental impact report had been completed and was submitted for public comment. So there's no real way to do that during the time frame for the EIR. However, we've looked at the 2022 scoping plan, and this project is consistent with that scoping plan, particularly with respect to transportation electrification, that is the EV charging infrastructure that will be included, the additional energy efficiency beyond the Title 24 guidelines. This project also results in a significant VMT, vehicle miles traveled reduction, because of being able to locate apartments near these other uses, retail, other shopping opportunities, entertainment. And then finally, the project does include building decarbonization. The project will not include gas appliances, stoves, ovens, heating units. Those will all be electric, and that again is consistent with the scoping plan. Finally, the SAFER letter and Mr. Frankel argue that this project will present unreasonable risk due to formaldehyde in the indoor air quality of the apartments because of building materials. And this is also incorrect. In fact, CEQA doesn't require an analysis of the impact of the project on individuals residing in the project. CEQA requires an analysis of the environmental impacts of the project on the environment, the outside environment. So this type of analysis is not required. Furthermore, the type of study that was submitted has been shown to be far too conservative, and the health risks from formaldehyde are nowhere near what's suggested by that study. The state of California, the Air Resources Board, as well as the South Coast Air Quality Management District do have standards for formaldehyde in building materials, interior building materials, and this project will meet or exceed all of those standards, and there's no need to do additional studies or impose even more drastic formaldehyde standards based on a flawed study. So those are the responses. I just want to emphasize the level of quality of this environmental impact report is tremendous. You have every reason to be confident that you can recommend certification and adoption. The team that performed the EIR and all of the technical experts are here. If you have any questions for them, I'd invite you to follow up. I don't have any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, okay, well, it looks like there are no more speakers, so at this time, I'm going to close the public testimony. And at this time, we're going to move into our deliberations.
Okay.
Who's brave?
What?
Who's going first?
I'll go first. Okay. I just see there is an overriding consensus with everybody that we really need this. And we've needed it for quite a long time. And I remember when Riverside Plaza, that Riverside, I guess it was the mall back then, I used to go there, and that thing just started to fall apart. And they did something, and it looks pretty nice, and they've got a lot of eateries out there. They've got a lot of, they don't have hotels. And the Hyatt, we just had an academy, and we stayed there. That's a beautiful hotel. It just, if we could get something like that, God, I'm a yes right now. But I just think that the benefits that for the economy in this city is going to make the neighborhood, the businesses, the community has been for this forever. They've talked about it before there was even a plan to do any kind of revitalization. And when we heard about it, like everybody said, it was just, when is it going to happen? It can't happen too soon. And if the hotel is the first thing and it looks great, I mean, that's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg. So I just think that any kind of CEQA findings can be overridden by the benefits that we're going to get, not only for the businesses, for the community, for the employment, for the fact that people are going to be able to live and not have to travel so far. I mean, I can see that there's going to be a lot of jobs, not just building-wise, but after. There's just going to be a lot of benefits to this. So I'm going to vote for it, and everything I've heard, I was just sitting on my seat to see if there was going to be like a bomb, something's going to explode, and then I wasn't going to be able to vote for it, but I'm voting for it.
You know, there's three of us on this commission that spent a lot of time working on this on the general plan a couple years ago, and we really put a fair amount of effort towards this. And I think Moreno Valley needs this in the worst way. And we only had 2 negative comments out of all the speakers, so I like it. Everything's great. I mean, I'm concerned like Joanne. We've got 2 big boxes there that I don't know how we're going to get that straightened out. But I guess if we get the rest of it put together, then that may draw in some people that would really take a look at those big boxes. But we need to go forward with this. I'm going to vote for it. Thank you so much.
You know, I've been here 33 years, and I remember when I first moved out here, that mall just got done in 1990, and again, it was towards the dying end of the mall. I remember once I got out of high school in '94, the mall already started kind of fading out. So it has been needing. I know this city desperately does need some eateries and some brew houses and some places to hang out. You know, I have some concern. The only concern I have is, you know, like Steve Hanna. Steve Hanna said that you're going to be hiring responsible contractors. Thousands and thousands of workers are going to be put on this. I'd love to see some of that community wealth being drawn in from our city and maybe or surrounding areas and making sure that they're getting paid a living wage. That's my biggest concern. Other than that, I like the design. I like the concept.
Well, I may not look it, but, you know, this is my 54th year in Moreno Valley. What, no gasps or okay. And like Joanne said, I remember the Riverside Plaza. One of the things that Mr. Baker and Miss Joanne, when we went to one of our planning commission meetings, it's one of the things that they stressed was foot traffic. And I see an area there, yes, where there's going to create some foot traffic. But, you know, I employ the developer. You know, when you go out to a place like Montclair and you walk the streets, you know, Victoria Gardens, people are they're on the ground, and they're not inside the mall. They're on the ground. Old Town, Temecula, they're on their feet. Those places thrive. They absolutely thrive. I see that we're kind of going around the mall with that. There are some big box items that could probably use to be gone. I just don't want to see another bandage that still doesn't create the foot traffic that creates that longevity of success. Those places, they stay. People thrive when they're out there, outside. They're seeing those malls. I tell you the big difference. The Riverside Plaza used to be an indoor mall completely. It used to be. One of the first revisions they did is they got rid of the roof, and you could still go down the stores, but it was open. And so you kind of got a little bit of sunshine when you went down there. One of the second things they did, they got rid of that all completely. So now when you pull in there, they got the diagonal parking. You have to get out of your car and walk down and go to the streets or to the shops. And now it's thriving. So I don't know if the concept of a mall itself is starting to be that dying entity because me, myself, you know, a dinosaur that I am, or my kids are teaching me, you know, punch the button, Dad, and they're going to show up at your front door. And that happens. So, you know, I understand the store is there, but we are making a fundamental change in the way people shop and the way that they patronize businesses. But one thing that will never change, and you know there'll be people that don't quite agree with me, but we do need each other. We need to see each other's faces. We need to be able to communicate and be able to go to places where we're able to just socialize. That doesn't really happen as much inside of a mall. So if there's a way to put more grass on the ground, more trees on the place, and I do say, I see all that parking lot out there. There's a lot of area where more of that can take place. So, the president of the vice president of the mall was here. I'm telling you, look at those areas. There is no need to reinvent the wheel when you can go to some of these areas and see that those places are happening. And there's many other places that you can go to when you walk down the places and you have your ice cream cone, just like we did. I'm too old. Telling you guys about the time we went down the street with the sparklers and and the ice cream cone. But those work. So as you're, finalizing your development, as you're finalizing your plans, think about increasing the amount of foot traffic and the availability for socialization to take place. I do like it. I do. I intend to vote on it. I would just like to see a little more. That one area there it reminds me, what is the name of that place in L.A.? Golly, I can't think of the name. It looks just like that. The Grove looks like the Grove. Right. That particular area looks like the Grove. And I love the Grove. I go down there and use the, what do you call it? Well, my little fancy car and get a valet, and I go upstairs and eat, and I see the people downstairs. I want to go to the movie theater. As a matter of fact, I took my son there for the very first time to have a drink when he was of age. We went to the Grove. I do concur with the people that are coming in and 424, 425. My daughter got a full scholarship for art. She's in Minnesota. She does murals. She gets a lot of commissions to go out and do that. And so I'm with that. I really want to have a place where our young artists can come out, and we should have a Moreno Valley mural. We should have that. And we should commission young people to come out and do different art projects in there. And we should be able to go to that central area where we get to see that. So I do plan on it. I think I'm just happy that you guys are saying, let's stay with Moreno Valley, and you haven't given up on us. And so thank you very much. I do plan on voting. With that being said, does anybody have a motion?
Can I say one more thing? I just want to add, because as a consumer and a shopper, I know that you're going to be doing all the exterior and everything, and like Elvin said about the enclosed mall, but I think that if it's done right and you can get some good anchors in there, I mean, look at Ontario Mills. I always have said they did it right because they got a lot of outlet stores. People just don't want to pay the high dollar price on things. So if you get some of these out, that's why they go out to Cabazon. Because you're going to get a deal, and you're going to get, a nice designer type things. My son goes out there, and actually he bought me my Coach bag out there in Ontario Mills, because they have outlet stores. And I've always thought that mall would have been done so much better had they got outlet anchors. But I know that people will come to the hotels, and if they have something like that, and I just think if you guys kind of plan real good and get these anchors that will attract those kind of people, I think, everybody wants a bargain. I know I do. So that's just kind of like my little tidbit in there, because I've been saying that for years to everybody.
Cabazon's another example of that foot traffic.
Yeah, but people go there, be quiet.
Yep.
They know they're going to get a deal.
Get a bargain. We need a motion and a second. Now, we have some changes, right, that we have to make sure that we add in the motion. There's some strikeouts that needed to be put back in, some corrections, or is it, will it stand as is?
If the motion is made this evening and accepting the corrections as recommended in the memorandum, as well as addressed by both staff and the applicant due to the couple of typographical errors that were in there, we would just look to the city or to the Planning Commission to make the recommendation pursuant to the modified conditions of approval as discussed and described during the hearing.
Okay. Who's brave enough to take a stab at that?
You are.
Let's
I'd like to recommend that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2023-18, Resolution 2023-17, and then Resolution 2023-16, along with the amended corrections on the adopted, I don't know what. Conditions of approval. That work? Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, the motion carries. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
The recommended actions of the Planning Commission on this item will be carried forward to the City Council for their consideration and final action at a future meeting. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to, well, let's see, how we been? An hour and a half? I think we'll be all right. We good?
Keep her moving.
All right. All right, item number 2, the applicant is requesting approval of a plot plan for a 96-unit apartment complex on approximately 4.07 acre site. Do we have a staff report?
Chair, I'm going to suggest that we just pause for just one moment as we have the folks clear out. That way the presentation's, very clear. All right. So with that, the presentation this evening will be made by Associate Planner Gabriel Diaz.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval of a plot plan for 96 unit apartment complex consisting of 4 separate buildings, 48 one-bedroom units, and 48 two-bedroom apartment units. The proposed project provides a clubhouse with an outdoor pool, dog park, and tot lot. The project site is approximately 4 acres. It is located south of Alessandro Boulevard, west of LaSalle Street, and north of Copper Cove Lane. The project is within the corridor mixed-use zoning district. Surrounding the project to the north and south are existing single-family homes. To the west is vacant land and an existing single-family home. And to the east is an existing church. The project's main access is from Alessandro Boulevard to the north. The secondary access is off Copper Cove Lane to the south, which is an emergency-only access. Additional parking will be provided. The proposed project will provide 171 parking spaces consisting of 96 covered parking spaces and 75 uncovered spaces. This is consistent with the municipal code requirements. The project will also be designed and conditioned to meet the city's landscape standards. The project proposes 4 three-story buildings and they have a height of approximately 40 feet. There are 48 one-bedrooms and 48 two-bedroom units. Their floor plans range from 795 square feet to 1,050. The proposed elevations have a Spanish influence style architecture. The apartments include exterior plaster with architectural features around the windows and patios and balconies to break up the massing. They have added focal points. These detailed features include concrete tiled roofs, wrought iron guardrails, and covered balconies. The clubhouse, these are the clubhouse elevations. Other amenities that include within the clubhouse is a fitness room, a reception room, leasing office, mail room, dog wash area, restrooms, and an open air lanai. Other amenities within the site include a pool, spa, cabanas, dog wash station, and a covered grill and tot lot near the center of the project. Environmentally, the proposed project has been evaluated in compliance with the criteria set forth in the California Environmental Quality Act. An initial study mitigated negative declaration with a mitigated monitoring and reporting program has been completed for the project. Staff recommends that Planning Commission take the recommended actions as proposed by staff. Adopting resolution number 2023-13, adopting an initial study mitigated negative declaration, and adopting resolution 2023-14, and thereby approving plot plan PN 22-0029. There has been some public comment to report. Planning did receive a letter from a member of the public. I did call the gentleman and I did speak with him for a little bit. He was at work and we didn't have much time to speak, but he did state that he would be at the meeting, and I believe I saw his name on one of the speakers. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Chair, I'd like to add just two real quick points of clarification. There was a question asked of me ahead of the hearing tonight. This is the same developer that came before you not all that long ago for the Crystal Cove project located at the corner of Alessandro and LaSalle that had provided a community benefit in the form of a dog park. This is a completely different project. It is a separate parcel. It is not the same property. So I did just want to highlight that they're very close, but they are separated by the religious institution that's existing out there today. They're on either side of it, yes. So I just wanted to clarify that because that was a question that was asked of me earlier today.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
Yeah, one question. I'm sorry, I might have missed. What is this zoned for right now as we speak?
The property is corridor mixed use. So corridor mixed use allows for both residential as well as commercial mixed use development. This developer has decided to go forward with a project that is closer to our R30 type designation.
I don't know. This is I don't know if there's any answer to this question, or maybe there is. I bought my Tesla, and I actually lived in an apartment, and there is no EV parking at all. Is there anything coming down the line for apartment buildings to? I mean, you get the parking. Some people can rent the garage, but the garage is usually only has electricity to open and close the garage, and I don't see any EV parking. Is there anything coming down the line to say, hey, apartment buildings, we got to start supporting these vehicles?
So there are some provisions within the building code relative to pre-wiring properties to those types of nature that are coming forward and have been put forward in the past. There are some developers that we've actually had that have come forward with utilizing some electrical charging within their developments. Not so much, some in the residential, but primarily we're seeing it on the commercial side at this point.
I mean-
But I know that the applicant, I wouldn't doubt the applicant is ready to speak to that, because I'm betting that they've got a number of clients coming their way. And being that it is a new development, that this is an opportunity where they have an opportunity to open that infrastructure up today rather than have to rather than come back and retrofit it later.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, because it's you're basically saying don't bring your EV here. You don't have any place to charge it, so you have to go drive down the street to go charge it. I mean, what is it, the new law that says in California, no more gasoline sold cars in 5, 6 years down, 10 years down the line? Okay. I was just wondering if there was any legislation or anything that says, hey, these large apartment complexes should start supporting these EVs.
There, in terms of actual legislation, that's fairly limited, but there are quite I know that the Department of Energy is putting out some grants that we've had some local property owners utilize, again, primarily on the commercial side, not on the residential. But there are a number of grants out there that are also available for those purposes. But they are through the state of California, not through the city or the county.
I see. All right. Any other commissioner questions? All right. Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening. First of all, we'd just like to thank staff for their work on this project. We've been designing and sort of fine-tuning it for about 1.5 years, coming up on 2 years this summer. And we're excited to push forward with this, but it is a gated community of market rate apartments. We're featuring a Spanish Mediterranean design. There'll be half 1 bedrooms, half 2 bedrooms. One thing that we like to focus on is a resort-style amenity center. So we've provided a really nice pool with a spa. It's got a covered lanai, so there's a nice picnic, lunch, gathering area. Joining with that is a barbecue area, nice seating and picnic area with that. There is a community playground and a dog park. One of the things that we provide in our clubhouses is we have a dog wash that has the removable nozzle, makes things simple, but that's joined up with the dog park. And this project will be fully consistent with the general plan. There's no variances being requested. We've gone through that general plan and tried to just adhere to it and provide a great asset to the city. The ultimate goal of this project is to, give the residents a sense of pride in where they live and something they're proud of and something that they look forward to going home to. And they get to, spend their Saturdays and Sundays out by the pool and enjoy the weather in Southern California, which is ultimately why everyone lives here. So a couple of notes that I'd like to bring up is that this is under the 2022 California Building Code, which is different from the 2019 code. This is going to be an all-electric community. There will be no gas throughout in any way, shape, or form. So with that, the EV stalls, there is a minimum requirement of, I believe it's 25%, but we shoot for much higher than that because it is such a great amenity to provide residents. Like you had mentioned, charging your Tesla, it's difficult if you don't have a garage. So we provide a lot of those on some projects we have now. We've I think tripled the requirement of electric vehicles. So without saying the exact number that we will come up with, it's always supports what the project will have, and then there's a conduit stub for future electric vehicle stalls, so that if there's a future owner later on down the line and they want to add in more, they could, or if we need more just based on demand, then we could do so. With that, I think that concludes everything that I wanted to say, and I'm happy to address any other comments or questions.
Well, thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant? No, I definitely commend you on the 25%. And you said you're going above and beyond that. I think that actually kind of would set that up, out there above the other apartment complexes. Say, hey, bring these, vehicles. One thing, is, I guess it might be a consideration. One thing I remember running into is I asked before I bought my home. I asked them. I said, hey, I have the garage. Can I upgrade? Can I put a 220 or 240 in this garage, And they said, well, we have to go through this and call the people and And before it all came back, I bought my house. But that might be something to consider. People rent the garage for an extra space. Putting in that extra plug is not going to harm anything. But it might be something to say, hey, I have now every car maker has an electric vehicle, from Ford to Audi, that beautiful ESQ Mercedes. Oh. Anyway.
It is nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I was considering that one. From Tesla, everyone has one. But the apartment buildings don't support them, or they don't upgrade to the voltage that will help to charge that without having to sit there for,
Phase 2 chargers, right?
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
tier 2 chargers,
Or
right.
just a 240 volt.
Yeah.
Be able to you'd say, hey, look, you can have this garage, but this garage over here has 240. And you can rent that for a little extra.
Right.
Something to consider. It may be more attractive to the people that have those electric.
Another item to note on that is that there's going to be solar on our carports on all these. So a lot of the carports, instead of having a traditional roof with the carports with the solar mounted on top of it, the roof actually will be carport or solar panels, and it's very nice. People seem to really love the look of it.
Which would save you a lot of money on those EV charging.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, quick question on the solar panels: How would that benefit the renter? I mean, that energy would go. Who would that benefit?
So
how would that work?
So it works in a number of ways, but basically there's a virtual net metering with solar, and so what that does is it offsets all of the community, and so basically all of the the pool heaters and the common area lighting and all that gets taken care of, so that's not pushed onto the tenants, and then we are given basically. There's a meter reading of how much we are producing, and that's provided back to the grid, and then we can get discounted on that. So we could be providing slight discount to the actual power company with our residents.
Thank you.
And that will trickle down to the resident.
Right. That is the intention. Yeah, and it's actually that's true with just about everything. I mean, for example, the bulk cable, telephone, and cable. We're using Frontier on this, and what we'll do is we contract with them on a bulk service. So let's say you get your cable at your single-family home for $90. We get a bulk service agreement, which is a big discount to it, and we're able to provide every resident with a discount on cable and telephone and Wi-Fi. So all of those are things that we look at as drivers for keeping residents in the community.
So I would imagine that every resident that registers a vehicle there must have a parking sticker or something like that.
Well, there's going to be. We'll see what the management company says on that, whether they want us to have assigned parking, but we certainly could assign parking. Sometimes it works with some site plans, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But I mean, we're amenable to it. It's no problem.
No, I mean, not necessarily assigned parking, saying this is your stall, but residents would have something to say that my car does belong here.
Oh, right, yeah, and there'll be transponders, and the management company would require some sticker in there so that they can keep track of guests parking and all that, so it's not overparked or anything.
Okay, the reason why I mentioned that is there can be, I think we're going through one right now, predatory towing. Right. And, once you sign up and say, hey, these cars don't belong here, the tow company comes in there, snatches them out of there. So I've seen some cases in Moreno Valley where the tow companies are very predatory. Once you sign up with them, they're in your apartment 24/7. Some guy just comes over and say, "Hey, I want to come and visit. Can I use the restroom?" They go in the restroom, come back out, the car is gone. Right.
Wow. Well,
Yeah, they're
that certainly
rough.
wouldn't keep residents wanting to renew their leases if we were allowing that to happen. But it is a gated community,
Right.
and there would not. I mean, on the existing communities now, that we wouldn't have tow trucks come in almost ever. I mean, we'd leave a note with management or someone get a phone call. In fact, the software we use to get into the community is called Butterfly, and the way that works is you can go on your cell phone and basically allow your guest to come in, but it registers that guest with their license plate and their camera footage to you. So then you're responsible. And so people don't come in that don't belong in there.
Nice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Are there any other commissioner questions for? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sounds great. All right, at this time, we're going to open up the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the public hearing item. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we have two speakers, Seth Cox, followed by Philip Lyman.
Good evening. I'm Seth Cox. I live out on District 3, out on the East End. Been in Moreno Valley a little over 30 years, 35, 36 years. Can't keep up with it. I'm not here for or against the apartments, okay? We need apartments. People need places to live. The East End is growing. I'm more concerned about the big picture of growth on the East End. This just happened to be the straw that got me off the couch and come up here to talk. I have my own little maps. You don't have one, but mine's color-coded, okay? The orange ones are the ones that are already in progress, okay? Houses being built out there. The yellow ones are ones either in approving or have been approved. That little box is what is known as, we call it Center City because it's been zoned downtown center, right? Everything's moving out west. The center of the city is moving. It's not going to be at the mall, I'll tell you right now. That's a destination, that's an island that will grow and we need it too. But my concern is, I'll give you some numbers here. Out of those pictures, that's almost 2,400 residential units, okay? Just in basically a mile and a half square from LaSalle to Marina Beach Drive, Cottonwood to Cactus. 2,400 houses or so. Some of them are single residential, adds up to being about 1,600 of them. And then apartments are another 700 and something, and most of them are concentrated right there on the corner of LaSalle and Alessandro. Okay, the new ones, the one on the other side of the church, and then the ones I call next to Snake Mountain. The one there was approved in 2016 by the commission. They didn't even break ground on it until earlier this year. Once everything else started building, they started building. And that's a 426 unit apartment complex. What I'm getting at is so much building, and I'm for growth, pro-growth, okay? But with growth comes consequences and responsibility. The infrastructure out on the East End is not built to support all this. When I say infrastructure, I'm mainly saying Alessandro Boulevard. It's already a truck route. All these cars have to go somewhere. They're going to be exiting on Nason. The elementary school's in there. The high school's there. The hospital's on the other end. It's going to be a nightmare. Water pressure out there, minimal at best. And now you're putting all this other stuff and not upgrading all the invisible stuff. The gentleman talked about EV cars. The grid out there won't support that much electricity, okay? We have issues out on the East End with electricity. Everything else is old out there.
Thank you,
so
sir.
think about those other responsibilities you have when you approve things.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Philip Lyman.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for having me. My name is Philip. I live at 25807 Alessandro Boulevard. This is the property that's in the very corner of this particular proposed plot lot, in particular in the northwest corner of it. It almost looks like the plot makes a perfect rectangle almost, except for that one little chunk in the very top left. So that one right there is my property. With this, proposal for these units, especially with, some of them being particularly close to where my property is, I do have some genuine concerns related to, how this is going to impact, my overall privacy, the security of my home. Also then with the additional factors that are associated with, the sound, not only from the construction, but also, once tenants are actually in, the additional traffic that this is going to cause moving through, and how ultimately all of these are going to affect my overall enjoyability of the property. Now, I did speak with Gabriel Diaz. He did call me today. We didn't have too much time to chat, but he talked to me about a couple things, plus hearing, the other speaker talk. I did hear some good things there. However, I still do definitely have some major concerns. Now, I do have a document that I did email over to the planning email at Movell. I do have a physical copy here as well if anybody needs that. Since, I want to respect the time here, the real thing that if I really get to the nitty gritty of why I'm really concerned or concerned the most about is going to be my privacy. Because if you'll notice, what their label here is Building 1 is essentially, I'm going to use this metaphor, a stone's throw from where my property is. And, this is going to be a 3-story building, essentially towering right over my 1-story unit, which, I don't think anybody would really enjoy that type of, thing being so close to them. Now, Gabriel did specify for me that there will be some windows that would still be facing westbound, in particular bedroom windows, bathroom windows, but the balconies wouldn't be specifically facing west. But that's still, and then the other thing really that I want to talk about with this is that I do see that it's proposed that there's going to be a 6-foot block wall to replace the existing chain link fence, which is the edge of my property. I personally don't think a 6-foot stone fence is really going to ease my mind at giving me, privacy from a 3-story building. I do think that there could be better actions that could be taken, or maybe even a taller wall. I don't know. I'm just throwing out. I'm no architect or anything. But that's it. If there's any other questions, I can definitely send this to anybody.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
No other speakers. Thank you.
All right. At this time, would the applicant like to provide any additional information?
Thank you for those comments. I have written them down, and we spoke with Gabriel as well today about some of these items. To address Mr. Cox, I completely agree with you on a lot of those items. I think this project, one thing that we're benefiting the community with adding to this is that we're going to be expanding Alessandro Boulevard, and so that eastbound road will then have extra lanes to accommodate all that traffic. And the only way that's actually going to get developed out is by approving these projects along the way that will dedicate that road and provide the ultimate right of way. That along with the project next door, Crystal Cove, which is also doing the same thing and widening that street. With the grid, absolutely. You'd mentioned that the solar, or not the solar, but the electricity would be difficult in this area with all the electric vehicle charging. One important thing to note is that we are providing solar for that reason. This community is going to have a lot of solar, and hopefully that's going to offset a lot of that power usage. So, as for the comments to our neighbor with respect to what you had mentioned with noise, traffic, privacy, I think we've come up with some very workable solutions if the staff and council is amenable to these. But for noise, we'd like to propose that wall and privacy as well, that wall adjacent to, dividing our property, be revised and changed to an 8-foot wall. It would add 2 extra feet to it. I know it's not much. You can't really get higher than that, but 8 feet. And then, in those units that actually face there, it's just the sides of the building. So it's really just bathroom windows, and those are high. They're above the shower. They're I think they're 1'8" by 3 or 4 feet, something like that. So they're pretty small, but they're just rectangular windows up above there. We could additionally we could put trees to line there, maybe some sort of, we'd have to talk to the landscape architect and see what they'd recommend along that block wall. But if there were tall trees there and then an 8-foot block wall, double-sided split face would look nice, then there would be certainly an increased privacy there. And I think that would be a big help. So if those are some things that we'd be happy to provide, if that's okay.
Thank you. 8-foot wall, there's shower windows. I understand what you mean. Those shower windows can't be much bigger than this paper, maybe a little
they're
longer.
pretty small, yeah.
Oh, boy. All right, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Chair, if I may, city staff was already actually made aware that the applicant may be interested in offering such conditions.
Right.
So we did actually prepare conditions of approval for your review. But before we jump to that, because I know Gabriel's ready to go and read that to you, I did want to note, just for the record, with relation to parking, any parking that is required in the city of Moreno Valley cannot be rented separately. It is only parking that exceeds our development standards that's allowed to be rented. That was an ordinance adopted by this commission back in December. So I did want to clarify that. I know there was a little bit of a discussion about renting. I did want to just clarify that for the record. And then also, the other thing I wanted to note, because there was a comment made about security, being that this development is over 51 units, also a newer addition to our municipal code. They will be required prior to the issuance of their building permits to submit an on-site security plan. The extent of that will vary based off of the overall design of the project, and will be submitted for our police department to also assist us in reviewing. So I just wanted to highlight those two things. So, Gabriel, I'll hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you. The 2 conditions proposed by the developer shall construct an 8-foot high decorative block wall along the south and west property lines of assessor's parcel 484-030-012, and that is the gentleman's property that Mr. Philip Lemon. And then number 2 would be, prior to issuance of the first building permit final, the developer shall install 36-inch boxed evergreen trees every 20 feet on center adjacent to the south and west property lines of assessor's parcel number 484-030-012, which is Mr. Lamont's property within the project site. That's it.
That's the 2 changes to the conditions of, okay, got it. All right. If there are no more speakers, let's close the public testimony and move into deliberations.
I'll kick it off. I think the renderings look very, very nice. Again, it's much needed. I think with the Crystal Cove at the corner, that church, and the apartment next to it, I think that'll be a nice addition, Alessandro, not to mention the much-needed road repair, the extra lane. We definitely need that extra lane there. And with the developer building across, I believe that should get extended as well with that same 2-lane. Alessandro needs it, much needed. So I like the plan. I'm voting for it.
Yeah.
You know, I've been on here a number of years, and all I can say is these apartment complexes, they're coming in much fancier or much more appealing than they were, say, 10 years ago. But I like the situation, and I do like the way that's going to expand Alessandro along there. And it does kind of fit in with the church and the other apartment complex. So I think we need to move forward with this. I'll vote for it.
Yeah, I too like the plan, and like Baker said, it's really, I mean, it's going to have a nice swimming pool. It's going to, have some amenities there, and they're not too big, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. I mean, I'm sure people can afford that. I just think it's a nice project. I kind of wish that back in the day they were building a little more of these, because it's just getting hotter and hotter out here. People are just going to love that pool. So I'm going to vote for it. And he did address some of the issues of the person that lives there, and I think that's nice that when they kind of try to work together, because you want a good rapport with your neighbor. So I really think the added lanes and everything else that they're going to do there is and then all the electric. It's the wave of the future. I mean, I just heard in the news where Menifee just did a total solar community, everything. I mean, they even put in a big, some sort of generator or something that if they lose electricity, that thing's just going to kick in. And I think that's going to be happening very soon. And it's just the way everything's going. So I'm gonna vote for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at it again to see if all the buildings were 3-foot or three-story buildings. It looks like building 1 and building 4 are the same. Yeah. I mean, I thought about that too when I got in my house. The next door neighbor's a two-story next to my. I didn't want a 2-story because I'm old. I don't want to climb the stairs. But then I'm thinking, privacy. That 2-story, I can look right over, and if I want to, what's that? Ferris Bueller in my backyard. I can't do that. I can look right over into my. Well, I mean, we're making some concessions there. 8-foot wall. That's pretty big. That's going to cut down on the noise. Right. I'm not real concerned so much about the windows looking over, because you got to do some pretty fancy climbing in the shower to peek out of that window. That'd be pretty dangerous. Now the trees. Now, what is the setback from the property to where those trees will be? How far? I mean, I'm just wondering, and not that it is a question that has to be answered, because I'd be concerned about, the trees, now the property owner has to worry about, raking up stuff and the stuff falls over.
There were already trees proposed within that location. We're just tightening up the grouping of those trees. So the conceptual landscape plan, which was also the site plan that we had shared with the commission, did already show trees within that area.
They were already the six box trees.
So the 36-inch box tree, that is just the overall size of the box. So it's a 3-foot by 3-foot box. What you end up with is a little bit more mature tree than, say, going with a 15-gallon tree, which is a round container, or a 24-inch box tree. It's a bit more mature. It gives an immediate impact to the screening, and then ultimately those trees will grow over time to screen even better. By going with the evergreen, we're ensuring that we don't have, the changes of season resulting in sometimes where it's open, sometimes where it is visible or it's not. The space, and then the spacing was intended because most evergreen canopies are at least that wide, if not wider, so we should see integration of the branches touching one another to really make it a solid screen. So those were all of the considerations that we took into with this. It's also a similar condition that we put based off of concerns relative to another apartment complex that was reviewed by the commission a few back last year along a northern property line of that property looking across the street into a new community. We had a very similar condition for that project as well.
Well, with all the, I mean, can the property owner get to use the pool? I mean, can he go in there and use the pool? I mean, wow. That'd be a nice concession for him to be able to go in there and use the pool when he gets ready to. All right, anybody else? No? Well, let's see. We got a motion and a second. Here it is right here.
Yeah, I recommend the planning, so I got it right here. I recommend the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-13. I also recommend the planning commission adopt resolution 2023-14
Condition.
with both conditions of approval of the 8-foot wall and the additional 36-inch box trees.
Second. You got it? You got the second? Okay.
I'm sorry, who was seconding? Okay.
Whoa. Power saving modes. Yeah.
We need
No.
solar.
There
We need
goes.
solar.
Get a solar panel in there. My screen is blank. There it goes. Yours is back on. Mine is not.
One more.
One more.
Nope.
Chair Dijonay, how would you like to vote? Verbal. That's okay, go ahead. You can tell me.
No, if
Oh,
we're
wait.
going to go to a verbal vote.
It has to be everyone?
It will be everyone.
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Stefan? Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Cobian?
Yes.
Chair Dijonay?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the motion carries. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
Okay. First, I'll note, while the screen does note that Chair Dijonay was away, we will record for the minutes correctly that it was ultimately done by a voice vote, and we can update the minute track system to that effect. So that, I'll just state that for the record to begin with, just for clarity purposes. The action taken tonight by the Planning Commission is an appealable action. Any interested party that would like to file an appeal may do so within 10 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director, stating the specific reason for the appeal, along with the appeal filing fee. If any appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is other commissioner business, and we don't have any at this time. The next item on the agenda is staff comments. Do we have any staff comments?
I have none, Collins.
All right, the next item on the agenda is planning commissioner comments. Do we have any planning commissioner comments? Okay. All right, so therefore, let me get this guy out of here right quick. Hey, this guy out of here. All right, so the planning commission is adjourned at 8:19 p.m. to our regular meeting on May 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m.